At 82, I thought I'd seen enough of life to make wise decisions. I'd lived through war, raised a family, built a career, and made peace with most of the things I could not change. I thought wisdom came automatically with age. But there's one decision I made that haunts me every single day: moving into a nursing home. It didn't happen all at once. The signs were subtle. A slip on the kitchen floor, forgetting why I went into a room, struggling with a jar that used to be easy to open. My children started noticing. They meant well, they were scared. They wanted me to be safe. They wanted someone to keep an eye on me 24/7. Back then, it seemed like the best option. I trusted them. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself I'd adjust, that I'd find a new kind of comfort here. But what no one told me, what no brochure, no tour, and no doctor ever explained, was how much of myself I'd lose in the process. If you're watching this, maybe you're thinking about this decision. Maybe for yourself. Maybe for a parent. Maybe for someone you love dearly. You want to do what's right. I understand. I thought I was doing what was right too. But before you take that step, let me share the 6 painful truths I learned too late. These are the regrets I now carry with me. If I can spare even one person the weight of these feelings, then maybe this story has a purpose. Regret number 1. The day I gave up control. I remember the exact moment it hit me. I was no longer in control of my own life. At home, my days were mine. They weren't always easy, but they were mine. I could wake up when I wanted to, sometimes at sunrise, sometimes not until 10. I could sit by the window with my tea in my favorite mug, listening to birdsong. I could leave a book open and come back to it days later. My space was my memory, my rhythm, my peace. Then I moved here. The first morning, someone knocked on the door at 6:45 a.m. I was still half asleep. "Time for breakfast," she said, cheerful but firm. I wasn't hungry. I hadn't even brushed my teeth, but I got up because I didn't want to be difficult. I didn't want to be that resident. I quickly learned the schedule wasn't a suggestion. Meals were served at set times. Lights out by 9 p.m. No more late-night television. No more spontaneous walks. Want to open a window? Ask maintenance. Want to rearrange the furniture? Not allowed. Every small choice was no longer mine. Even my clothes were sometimes chosen for me. Once, I asked where my blue cardigan had gone. No one knew. It never came back. And the worst part, I started losing the will to make decisions. When you stop making choices, you stop feeling like a person. You become managed, handled, a file on a chart. I used to be a proud woman. Independent, stubborn even. But now, I was just a name on a door. Regret number 2. The silence of being forgotten. They promised they'd visit, and to be fair, they did at first. I remember the first Sunday. My daughter brought me homemade cookies. My grandson showed me how to use the video call machine. We took selfies. We laughed. For a moment I believed it would be okay. But then time did what time always does. It moved on. Calls got shorter. Visits got postponed. Work's been crazy, they'd say. The kids have soccer, or we'll come next weekend, promise. Holidays became phone calls. Birthdays became mailed cards, and soon I found myself in the common room, watching the door like everyone else. I began memorizing the staff's shift schedules, just so I could predict when someone unknown might stop by and say hello. I started talking to my reflection just to hear a familiar voice. It's a strange kind of loneliness, the kind that comes not from isolation, but from invisibility. You exist but barely out of sight, and slowly out of mind. And yet I don't blame them. Life outside these walls keeps moving. People get busy. But what they don't realize is that for those of us in here, time moves differently. Days feel like weeks. A missed visit isn't just a scheduling conflict, it's a heartbreak. I once waited 4 hours by the window because my granddaughter said she might drop by. She never came. I didn't cry. Not then. But later, alone in my room, I did. Not because she forgot, but because I knew I was being forgotten. Regret number 3. The slow death of purpose. Do you know what keeps people alive? It's not medicine. It's not food. It's purpose. When I lived at home, I had responsibilities, small ones, but they mattered. Feeding the cat, watering my garden, making soup from scratch, writing letters to friends. Those tasks gave my days meaning. They reminded me that I was still contributing, that I mattered. But here, there's nothing I have to do. Everything is done for me. And while that might sound like a blessing, it is not. It's a slow erosion of your identity. I met a man named Henry on my second week here. He was a clockmaker, beautiful, delicate work. His hands were still steady. He used to talk about gears and springs like they were poetry. I asked him why he didn't tinker with clocks anymore. He said, "What for? No one needs it. No one needs me." Within 3 months, Henry stopped coming to the dining room. Within 6 months, he passed away in his sleep. They said it was natural causes, but I think it was something else. I think it was emptiness. When you stop being needed, you start disappearing, first from others' lives, then from your own. Regret number 4. My body betrayed me faster than I ever imagined. I walked in here on my own 2 feet, with a cane, sure, but I walked. I prided myself on that. But something strange happens when people stop expecting you to do things for yourself. You stop expecting it too. I used to climb the stairs slowly but proudly. Now, they tell me to wait for assistance to walk 10 feet. At first, I resisted. I wanted to prove I could still do it, but after a while, it felt easier to just let them push the wheelchair. Don't overdo it, they said, so I didn't. And that's when the real decline began. Muscles I depended on for decades weakened. My legs lost their strength. My hands, once nimble with knitting, started trembling. I couldn't open jars, button shirts, or even hold a pen steadily. One morning, I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the woman looking back. She looked tired, fragile, old. They say the body reflects the life you live. And here, this life isn't active. It's passive. You sit, you wait, you're tended to. But you don't live, not really. If I had stayed in my home, I might have moved slower, but I would have kept moving. Here, I stop. Regret number 5. The humiliation of losing privacy. Dignity. Such a simple word, and yet so easily taken. Imagine needing permission to use the restroom. Imagine someone entering your room without knocking. Imagine being helped to bathe by someone half your age, while you try not to cry from embarrassment. These things don't sound so bad on paper. Necessary, they call them. For your safety. But no one tells you what it feels like to lose the little moments that once belonged only to you. One time, a young nurse came in while I was changing. She meant no harm, but she didn't knock. I was half-dressed. She laughed and said, "Oops," but I didn't laugh. I just sat there, covering myself, cheeks burning. I felt like a child being scolded for needing help. And it happens over and over again. Your body stops being your own. You're poked, checked, and examined. People speak about you like you're not there. They don't mean to be cruel, but that doesn't make it hurt any less. Dignity doesn't vanish in one moment. It's chipped away. A missing please. A door left open. A diaper when you ask for a toilet. One day, you realize you've forgotten what it feels like to be treated like a person. Regret number 6. The door that locks behind you. I thought I could leave any time. I truly believe that. But it's not that simple, because by the time you realize you want to go, it's too late. My home had been sold. My things are given away. My car was gone. My neighbors moved on. And my body, it wasn't strong enough to pack a bag, let alone live alone. My children built new routines without me. They visited less and less. The world outside kept spinning, while mine stood still. One day I asked a staff member how many residents had moved back home. She looked at me with kind eyes and said, "Not many, maybe 1. In the last 5 years." That's when I knew this was it, the final chapter, the last address I'll ever have. The cruelest truth about nursing homes. They don't just house you, they hold you. And sometimes they never let go. If I could go back in time, I'd fight harder. I'd speak up more. I'd try every alternative. I'd ask my kids to look into in-home care. I'd downsize to a smaller, safer apartment. I'd accept help, but on my terms, because the price I paid for safety was everything that made life worth living. I know this isn't easy. I know you're scared, whether for yourself or someone you love. But I beg you, think carefully. Once you walk through that door, some things can never be undone. And if your loved one is already in a home, visit them, call them, not just on birthdays, not just at holidays. Show up, sit with them, bring them things that make them feel like themselves again. No, one should have to sit by a window, watching for a face that never comes.